Insomniac Games are a very talented and creative developer, and I've been a massive fan of their PlayStation exclusive titles such as the Ratchet & Clank series and the excellent Resistance games. So you can imagine it came as a shocker to me when I found out that they had their first multi-platform game in the works, and it was to be published by EA. At E3 2011, this new title had come to be announced as Overstrike, a quirky co-op shooter with a unique style to it. Then in August 2012, the game was rebranded as Fuse and was given a more realistic and modern look. The question is Fuse a game that lives up to the Insomniac name, or is it just another shooter? Let's find out.
Something's in here.
Everybody out!
Fuse's story takes place in the near future and follows a team of 4 misfit agents, Dalton, Naya, Izzy and Jacob, who are collectively known as Overstrike 9, whose mission is to stop the evil Raven Corporation from attaining and weaponizing an alien substance called Fuse. Fuse's story is barely there. Fuse's narrative follows a group of generic soldier types that are doing generic things to save a generic world. The story is just so pointless and light that you'll forget what's happening as you play the game. It's a shame to see some clearly great concepts executed so blandly. For instance, the Fuse substance is never explained, and all we know is that it's a futile substance that can make cool weapons. That's it. The lack of interest the game has in its own lore is enough proof that no one gave a shit about Fuse's plot or world when developing the game. I have never quite experienced a game like this, where the story kinda goes in one ear and out the other. Fuse's story is like when you turn the music on while getting dressed. You're not listening or focusing on the music, but it's there anyway because it's just how you do it. Fuse's story is so by the numbers as video game plots can get, that I can't actually recommend playing the story to anyone, as you can get a wide range of games like this that are better and more entertaining for a lower price. Overall, the narrative in Fuse, of the little there is boring, generic, and as uninteresting as watching paint dry.
Dalton, stop!
You just destroyed your only bargaining chip.
I didn't destroy it. I merely stopped you from cutting off my thumb.
Don't be daft. We didn't come here to hurt you. We came to get you out.
She's right.
Fuse is a good looking game. Everything from the environments to the character models aesthetically look great, but there's no oomph to the designs. In any other video game, Fuse's generic look would be okay, but because this has come from Insomniac, one of the most talented and creative developers out there, I expected a lot more. One thing I found particularly hilarious is the fact that each level in Fuse's campaign seems to have been picked off a checklist that was titled, "Every level you can place in a shooter." I literally couldn't stop laughing when my friends and me was able to guess what the next level was just by knowing how video games work. For instance, the first level is a generic base, the second level is an underwater base, and the third is a jungle, and so on. You can just tell that Fuse had no ideas behind its environment design and had no clue in what direction to go with, so they just did them all. Overall, Fuse is a good looking game, but every aspect of its art design is generic and hilariously predictable.
Charging them all. Out of ammo.
The sound design in Fuse is, as you could expect, adequate, but nothing special in any way. The voice acting is good, and no one is abysmal or awful in any way, but none of the voice actors really give their all. So just like everything else I've mentioned about Fuse so far, the voice acting is forgettable and uninspired. The soundtrack is actually quite good, and excels more than most aspects of Fuse, but that's not really anything to write home about. The soundtrack pretty much sounds like a blockbuster movie with every action segment of the game, which is nearly every segment, sounding like an epic set piece when at most points it's actually not epic at all. The sound effects are great and really give everything in the game a great sound. The guns all have a great punch to them, and when you combine certain Fuse weaponry, the sounds just go crazy, and it's pretty awesome. Overall, the sound design in Fuse is a mixed bag, but I'd say altogether it boasts a slightly higher than average sound selection, which is kind of surprising. Fuse is a straight up co-op shooter, nothing more, nothing less. You will be blowing away many enemies with up to 3 other friends, which all have their own unique Fuse weapon. The actual shooting gameplay feels great, and the extremely tight controls make sure that you can always be accurate with your shots. Like any other shooter, you can roadie run, take cover, and even perform some gruesome melee kills up close, but that's all you get in Fuse, the bare minimum. It's like this game isn't a game, but more of a blueprint for developers on how to create a basic shooter. I mean, you have all the elements that you've come to expect, like a rudimentary skill tree for each character, and weapon and character skins to unlock, but everything is so bog standard that Fuse ends up feeling less like a game and more like a checklist. There is not one thing in Fuse's gameplay that sets it apart from other shooters of its kind, and it's extremely disappointing since the original idea of Overstrike was so goofy and fun looking. You have your Fuse weapons, which are pretty cool. For instance, my character Jacob has a crossbow that turns enemies to glowing mulch, but you only have one per character for the whole game. That's a total of 4 guns that stand apart from the other boringly generic assault rifles and SMGs, which is downright dismal. When killing enemies, you get points for doing certain things, which in turn levels up your character, and you can use the skill points that you get from that to become more powerful. Now I will say this, the extremely gratifying kills you can get when you and your friend combine your Fuse weapons are freaking awesome, and they were very cool to watch, but the problem here is that the point system and the amount of different style kills you can get mean nothing since you're just doing the same thing over and over again, just killing endless amounts of generic mercenaries. It just becomes repetitive extremely quickly. You'll find yourself constantly opening doors over and over again, hacking terminals over and over again, and refilling armories over and over again until you feel less like you're playing a video game and more like you're at work. You can play single player, which gives you the option to switch between characters on the fly, which is a pretty cool idea, but I would highly suggest against playing alone. Playing with a group of friends is what Fuse was built for, and sharing my playthrough with others was the only thing that kept me going. Not only that, I cannot imagine how someone would get through some of the boss fights and hectic moments without some real human buddies, as they can really get intense thanks to the amount of enemies the game throws at you, and even though the AI might be good at reviving you, they're also great at getting themselves killed, which is always fun.
We can't shoot those shields! Running low. Yeah, I can block bullets too, asshole.
Lastly in Fuse we have the Echelon mode. Echelon mode is what you would get if you mixed Horde mode with Warzone mode from Killzone. Basically, you and up to 3 other friends can take characters with all their upgrades into this mode and fire off endless rounds of enemies, but in every round there are bonus objectives for you to try and attain. It's a great mode, but there are only a handful of maps and they're not really that interesting, plus with the generic and repetitive enemies I really don't see anyone being able to sink their teeth into this. Like everything else in Fuse, Echelon mode is a great idea that is poorly executed. Fuse is the most generic game I have ever played. It's so painfully uninspired that I'm not even sure it was worth releasing. Overstrike looks so stylish and awesome, but as soon as Overstrike became Fuse, whatever creativity there was in the original idea from Insomniac has now been effectively killed and has become literally the most boring and underwhelming shooter ever created. I do not know what happened to this game as it was undergoing development that made a unique idea into a bland one, but what I do know is that this is one of the most lifeless, uninspiring and monotonous games out there, and for that, Fuse gets a 4.5 out of 10. Fuse is a game that is not hilariously bad or exceedingly brilliant, it just fits neatly in the middle. And that's just exactly what Fuse is. It's literally nothing. And the worst part is that it's actually happy with that.
They are wrong about Fuse. It isn't energy or power. It is truth. And now that I have seen your truth, it is time for you to come and see mine.
Hey guys, if you liked the review, then subscribe to the channel and check out the TeamGamersNetwork.com as we have a ton of gaming goodness waiting for you. Also, if you're interested, I have a Twitter and I post a lot of gaming updates, so be sure to follow me if you love gaming as much as I do. Bye guys.